So welcome back guys to We Talk Boxing, and today I'm just going to be doing a video in regards to Richard Riakporhe and where I believe he potentially should go next in terms of his boxing career. So Richard Riakporhe obviously lost against Chris Billam-Smith on the weekend, and it was a very poor performance from Richard. Um, I don't want to say lack of desire or I don't know. I don't know. I'm very deflated in a weird way. Just seeing that the poor performance and kind of recollecting these feelings right now, because obviously Richard is what I thought prior to this fight was gonna be a world champion in that weight, but now having seen how he performed against Chris Billam-Smith, I don't feel like he could potentially be a world champion with the performance that he put on Saturday night, because he had no boxing skills, he had no motivation, no desire to win, and he was very easily picked off by a very good, on the night, Chris Billam-Smith. And that first round, when I was watching that first round, I looked and I thought, you know what, this good. This fight's going to play into Richard's hands here, because that jab is literally, as Richard's throwing that jab, he's bouncing Chris Billam-Smith's head backwards, and he was catching him a load of times in that first round. And I thought, all that's going to happen is going to come out second round, do the same sort of thing, and then just every now and again throw the right hand, maybe throw the left hook, and then at some point he's going to catch Chris Billam-Smith and good night. But it wasn't to be, and Chris Billam-Smith adapted very well. Well, I'm not sure if it's his corner or if it was him who did it, but he basically was, he closed the distance. And it was the distance that was causing him the trouble in that first round, because that jab, as I said, was hurting him and he was bouncing his head back. Whereas as he closed the distance, he was closer to Richard Riakporhe, and he's the better fighter at close range. And he could get his shots off a lot easier, and he could disrupt that jab and that flow from Richard Riakporhe. And that's exactly what happened. He didn't allow Richard Riakporhe enough time to set himself and to let his hands go. And it was a very good performance. And as I was watching it, if anyone was going to get stopped in that fight, it would have been Richard, because Chris Billam-Smith was the aggressor. He was the guy that was landing more shots. He was the guy that was landing big shots, and his combinations were brilliant. So hats off goes to him. And if it's my point of view now, if I'm his management team or Chris Billam-Smith or whoever close to him, he's saying, look, try and go after the other world titles, and then potentially, if you're good enough to capture the other 2 or 3 titles, whatever, well, 2 it would be, are you good enough then to maybe challenge Riakporhe, who is the biggest name in that division? But anyway, we're here to talk about Richard. Now, Richard, on the other hand, as I said, poor performance, and he was outworked, outfought, outgunned. Now, I should have probably guessed this was going to be how it was, because style for style, Richard Riakporhe and Lawrence Okolie are pretty similar, and obviously Chris Billam-Smith dealt with him as well. But yeah, I feel as if going forward, Richard has to potentially, I feel he's too big for that weight. He's too slow and he doesn't work hard enough. So I feel as if he's got 2 options. He could either go straight to heavyweight, where he's going to be a small heavyweight. But the good thing on that front is that he should be more mobile enough, and he should be able to throw a lot more punches coming up from cruiserweight to heavyweight, because the bigger guys don't really fight at a higher pace. And obviously their movement isn't as brilliant, Alexander Usyk being the exception. So yeah, he potentially will have some success at heavyweight, but whether or not it would be a chance for him to maybe capture a world title, I don't think so. I don't feel as if he's big enough or carries a big enough punch to potentially win a world title, unless the world champion is very poor in my eyes. And obviously the man at the moment is Alexander Usyk with all the belts, and he's nowhere near good enough beating Alexander Usyk. So I would like Richard Riakporhe to potentially move up to Bridgerweight. Now, I know some of you are probably listening to this and thinking, Bridgerweight, well, what's all that about? It's that next level, and him moving up to Bridgerweight, yes, it's not heavyweight, but it's that next level, and it's a case where the guys will be a little bit bigger. Okay, can have a few more fights, enhance his craft that little bit more, get a bit more experience, and I feel that he potentially will win the WBC title at Bridgerweight because Lawrence Okoli isn't going to stick around, and he's won that title now, and he's pretty much going to move up to heavyweight, so that belt's going to become vacant. Richard can move up, have a couple of fights, and maybe fight the champion who has the belt. So that's an option, and I think that's a good option at this stage. And depending on how he handles the smaller of the bigger men, will determine whether or not he can then make that transition to heavyweight. If he doesn't feel that is good enough to maybe transition to heavyweight after having a few fights at Bridgerweight, then go back down. But if he does go back down to cruiserweight, his work rate has to be a lot higher. His combinations have to be, he has to have more than just a jab basically, because it's quite easily to figure out as a boxer. So yeah, he has to try and improve his style and his skill. So maybe that might be a question for, does he need to go with a different trainer? Don't really know. I don't really know, but that's a question for you guys to answer. But anyhow, that's my thoughts. Yeah, brilliant performance from Chris Billam-Smith. Poor performance from Richard Riakporhe. I suppose he could potentially run it back with Chris Billam-Smith, because that'd be one apiece now in the not heavy in the professional game. So yeah, but if he does run it back with Chris Billam-Smith, which he'll have to work his way back up to that point, he has to do a lot more. He has to come and obviously try and outwork someone like Chris Billam-Smith, or just use that jab. Keep pumping that jab. Follow with the right hand and the hooks and stuff like that, and just work that a little bit more. But these are my thoughts and where I believe Richard Riakporhe should go next, or pretty much what to do next in his career. He's still a prospect. I'm not sure about him winning a world title now at cruiserweight, but surely at Bridgerweight, if he does move up, yeah, I'll probably put good money on it with him winning a title there. Heavyweight, nah, I don't think so. But anyway, that's my thoughts. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, please subscribe and comment. Bless.